Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very good morning to one and all. Thank you so much for coming for today's conference, the conference East of West, West of East, organized by NTU. My name is Jonathan Sim. I'm a research officer at NTU, and I will be your host for these 2 days. On my third day, I actually got caught up for reservist, so I won't be around for the third day. Yeah, I have to serve the nation. Okay, anyway, so we have a very, very exciting conference today for these 3 days, East of West, West of East. It's not going to be your usual academic conference, okay? So don't worry, it's not all just about deep, profound learning, okay? It's going to be, we have a very exciting program, many exciting speakers, very interesting topics, a lot of food for thought for many of us, even though many of us here are from Singapore. You know, we say that Singapore is a melting pot, a rojak, yeah, of East and West, right? But still, many new insights, many new lessons for us to learn. Okay, so a very big welcome to everyone. We have many guests from overseas as well, some of whom just, to my knowledge, some of whom just arrived this morning. So thank you so much for coming all the way here to Singapore. Now, so the first off, we will have the director of Paralimus, the one who is responsible for this conference, the initiator of it, Mr. Jan Vasbinder. We'll invite him on stage to give us his opening remarks. Okay, Jan.
Good morning. As Jonathan said, my name is Jan Vasbinder, and on behalf of Nanyang Technological University, I welcome you all to what I trust will be a very exciting conference. I'm the director of a small institute called Paralimus, which means beyond boundaries. Paralimus was established by the president of NTU, Bertel Anderson, who wanted a small unit in the university to explore areas of interest beyond the traditional boundaries of disciplines, institutes and nationalities. In other words, explorations that require cross-disciplinary and complexity approaches. In this spirit, Paralimes initiates exploratory projects by teams of world-class scientists, philosophers, artists, policymakers, and men and women of practice. The conference East of West, West of East perfectly meets this spirit. Also, and maybe more important, it deals with an issue that we consider to be highly relevant for the safety of our world. Namely, the dialogue between East and West and the role Singapore can play in improving and enriching that dialogue. It should be noted with emphasis and respect that the late Mr. Lee Kuan Yew played that role to perfection and with great influence. In the Western world, he made very clear how China must be understood, and in China he did the same with regard to the Western world. He was the trusted bridge between two cultures because his own life straddled both. His deep understanding of both worlds and his candid ways of explaining each world to the leaders of the others earned him tremendous respect in the whole world. The standards Mr. Lee Kuan Yew set for the dialogue between East and West are therefore incredibly high. But the challenges ahead of us are incredibly high too. And those challenges will have to be faced by the young people that are growing up now to become the leaders of our future. One of the leading biologists of our time and Nobel laureate, Sidney Brenner, once remarked, we cannot change the we cannot change the present, but we can change the future through the young people. And in line with that, quite a few of the participants to this conference are such young people, and I therefore very specially welcome the students of the junior colleges that are here. The idea for the conference arose about 2 years ago. During a coffee break in our conference Hidden Connections, Andrew Sheng, who is one of the conveners of this conference and our next speaker, said to me, Jan, unless something is done to navigate the barriers between China and the United States, we are heading for a serious armed conflict between the two. I had at that time started to read the English translations of the classical Chinese philosophers Lao Tse and Jiang Tzu. I can never know how to pronounce it, sorry. I was struck by the richness and nuance of thoughts that I had never known about. That, in the course of time, changed the tuning of my antennas. Andrew essentially told me that that because the Western antennas are tuned to signals that only the Western ear can recognize, these antennas are not equipped to receive and understand the signals coming from China. Similarly, the Chinese antennas are tuned to signals recognizable only for the Chinese ears and cannot receive and understand the signals coming from the West. Such lack of understanding that is talking across each other is bound to lead to serious problems. And this is especially true in an even more populated and interconnected world where the two powers infringe on each other's space and compete for the same resources. There and then, Andrew and I decided to start a project aimed at understanding the barriers between East and West and exploring ways to navigate these barriers. I will tell you about the project because it provides a setting for this conference. It started in 2014. In two separate and intensive workshops, 15 scientists, artists, philosophers, and people of practice, both with Eastern and Western backgrounds, looked for ways to identify different aspects of the perceived barriers between East and West. In these workshops, our assumptions about the existence of a barrier were validated, and an argument was made why complexity science might offer hope to navigate that barrier. The results of those workshops were condensed in a working paper that is available on our website. Jonathan Sim, who acts as our MC for this conference, played a key role in writing it. Then, in the next conference, we addressed the question how to use these results for the purpose of finding ways to navigate the barrier. We decided that the first step would be to have a conference in which we would share these results with others. These others, initially, were to be the world leaders who are in the position to change the nature of the dialogue between East and West. But then a famous statement of Albert Einstein came to mind. We cannot solve our problems with the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. And we wondered, would those leaders really be in a position to improve the dialogue? Maybe some. But in line with Sidney Brenner's comment that I quoted earlier, we decided to focus on young leaders who have not been part of the dialogue yet. They will have to shape the dialogue, and they will have to deal with the consequences if the dialogue goes sour. Einstein's remark also made us wonder whether the distinction between East and West is useful or whether it is a tainted remnant of a colonial past, the use of which will poison any attempt to develop a better dialogue. That such might be the case really struck me when I invited Martha Nussbaum, a famous philosopher from the University of Chicago, to join the project. She wrote me back, and I quote, "For many years I have tried to show in my writings on India that any binary opposition between East and West is crude and unhelpful. The West contains all sorts of diametrically opposed positions, including those of fascism, communism, social democracy, New Deal liberalism, and libertarianism, not to mention Christian communitarianism." Well, difficult words to express, to say. Even each single Western religion, she wrote, is full of different traditions. As for Eastern, it's worse. It runs together nations that have little in common, but the fact that Europeans call them Eastern, China, India, and so forth. India is about as complex as Europe in terms of its thought traditions, and so is China, Japan, and Korea. Moreover, the West borrowed a lot from Eastern from the East, Western mathematics originated in the Arab nations, and the Western ideas of religious toleration originated in India. End of quote. Obviously, the East-West dichotomy is not very helpful. In a small interdependent world, we all are genetic hybrids. The Chinese call this, you are in me and I am in you. So, to bypass the discussion what is East and what is West, the theme for the conference is East of West, West of East, because in between is where we have to find our way. And we decided to start by trying to find our way between China and the US, as the combination of their power and cultural differences poses the biggest threat and opportunity for the world. And there are distinctions between the two, going back thousands of years. We feel that being aware of those distinctions is important when trying to develop a better dialogue. At the same time, we must be aware that because the world has changed since those thousands of years and is changing ever more rapidly in our era, the geographical and temporal coordinates of these distinctions have changed and are changing continuously. The general purpose of this conference is to find ways to improve the dialogue between the two world powers, one east of West and one west of East, that seem to be separated by barriers that prevent them from understanding each other and to develop a constructive dialogue. This conference intends to contribute to a basis for such a dialogue by delving into the deeper barriers to communication and the intellectual and cultural levels. In doing so, it will focus on the way the dialogue has been and is being shaped by our history, our philosophies, our languages, our food, our religion, our medicine, and our technologies. We will revisit our history and our different worldviews to try to understand our current times and look into the future, and we intend to deal with hidden connections and silent transformations that today's geopolitical thinking has ignored and has underemphasized. It will be an intense conference, and the success will depend on your active participation, and so will the development of a better dialogue between East and West. If this conference has sparked within you, the young, some ideas on how to build bridges between different cultures, languages, religions, or civilizations, we will have achieved our purpose. Change seldom comes overnight, but it always begins with small steps. I wish you a great conference. Thank you.